So in this video I'm going to show you how to retrofit a Fluke, Flea, or Firefly ukulele by replacing the standard friction tuning pegs that these come with some of these geared tuning machines instead. So today I'm working on a little project on one of my ukuleles. This ukulele is called a Fluke ukulele. And it's a really neat ukulele. I've had it for over 4 years now, and I really like it. It's really durable, and it has a really nice, loud, clean sound. But one thing I've never liked about this ukulele are the kind of tuners that it came with. It has these friction style tuners. It's kind of a neat headstock how they've cut out this middle section of the wood here, and then they have the friction tuners mounted from the side. Most ukuleles that have friction tuners have them mounted from the back here like that instead. However, personally I've really never liked friction style tuners. I really find them a lot less convenient, a lot less good of a design as the more modern style of geared tuning machines like this one here. Many of my other ukuleles have the geared style tuners, and I just personally find them a lot more convenient, although I know there are certainly people that prefer this style. So I've ordered a set of these geared style tuners, fairly inexpensive ones, and my goal is to retrofit this ukulele with these tuners. I actually ordered 2 different styles of geared tuners, and that's because in addition to my Fluke ukulele, which has the friction tuners, I also have this banjo Firefly ukulele, which is made by the same company, and I have the same difficulties with the tuners on this one. So if I'm successful with retrofitting this ukulele, then I'll probably do the same for this one with the other set. So as you saw, I already removed 2 of the friction tuners from this headstock here. And the new tuners come with these little metal inserts, which just happen to fit right in there. The hole was already drilled to the exact right size, so I just basically push those in there. So that's sort of the idea that I'm after. I'm going to mount the tuners, on the side the way that they always were, and the strings are still going to follow the exact same path as they were designed to follow. The only problem so far is that, there's a little bit of overlap here between these 2 pieces. So I'm going to have to modify these a little bit, and I'm hopefully also going to modify them a little bit because right now these sections here are overhanging the wood a little bit, and if possible it would be nice to make those at least so they're flush. So what I'm thinking for this tuner here is I'm going to modify it by cutting a little bit off of the end of that bottom plate there, and then I'm going to re-drill this hole a little bit closer in that direction. And I can actually take this thing all apart. I can take that screw out, and then this whole piece can slide over, and then I'll be able to drill a new hole, which will be further in that direction, and hopefully that will give you lots of clearance so that this thing will be able to fit in there without them overlapping or touching each other. And that's what they look like when you take them apart. They break down into just 5 pieces. So I've just taken that metal plate and I've used the screws that came with it to screw it into this big scrap piece of wood. And the reason I did that is because I figured it would be a good way to hold on to it while I'm working on making that new hole, which will be right in there. And I am a little bit limited on what sort of facilities I have for working on because my workbench is also my kitchen table. So I've just used my calipers here to measure out a straight line along there, and then I punched a hole in the center, which is what I'm going to use for aligning my drill bit when I drill the new screw hole in there. And I don't have an actual proper center punch. This is what center punch I used today. I just used my drywall screw and just kind of aligned it on there, and then hit it with a hammer just to make that little indentation, which will be used for the drill bit to follow. The drill bit that I'm going to be using for the hole is this one here, which is a 7/64 bit. And the way that I determine what size to use is basically I just used the size of the existing hole in here, and this one fits in there pretty good. It's a little bit loose, but I think this will make a big enough hole that our screws will fit in there. Alright, so I've got this piece of wood so it's clamped down the table, so hopefully it won't move around too much. And I've added some oil, a few drops of oil to the end of my drill bit, so it will help it move a little bit easier through the metal, and hopefully it won't cause it to overheat too much. I'm just going to find the end of that with my drill bit, and we'll start drilling. Looks like we're doing pretty good so far. Alright, we're all the way through. It looks like a pretty good hole. So after taking the screw out, I can see that I made my hole a little bit closer to the old hole than I would have liked. There's really only a small little sliver of metal in between the old and the new. But I really don't think that'll cause much of a problem because when the tuner is actually installed in the ukulele, there's going to be very small amounts of movement in this direction here. Because this part of the tuner, goes through the hole, which is in the ukulele, and it fits in there, and there's no way for it to move this way. These screws are really just there to keep the tuner from spinning in either directions around that point. So I don't think that is really going to cause too much of a problem, but when I do the next one, I probably will still move it a little bit closer towards the left. Alright, so that's what it looks like with the tuning knob back in, and as you can see, there's no interference whatsoever between the screw head here and the worm gear of the tuning knob there. There's actually quite a bit of space still in that direction, so when I do the next one, I won't be shy about moving that screw hole further in that direction. But overall, I'm happy with the product so far. The next thing I want to do is to trim this to make it actually shorter. So what I'm going to do is actually make a small little cut in here, probably using a hacksaw, and another small cut here, just to make it so it will effectively cut off that end there, and then it'll make room for the other tuning machine, so they're not going to overlap like I was showing before. Alright, so I've got things a little bit repositioned here. I've moved this plate so it's at the edge there, so I should just be able to take my hacksaw and make one straight cut in this direction and another straight cut here, and then I'll just use my file to clean things up and make it look a little bit neater. And there we go, just like that. Got that end trimmed off. And with it screwed to the wood, it's probably the easiest way to file it. This material is quite soft, so it's really easy to work with. So I got the tops filed pretty good there. I think I'll take it off to do the other sides. Alright, so there's our finished product so far. If you didn't know that that was done custom, you might even think that it was just done to look like that for decoration purposes. But I'm just going to put this back together again, and we'll see how it looks on the ukulele and make sure that everything will still fit properly. Alright, so mission accomplished. Things are fitting exactly the way that I had hoped. The little pointy piece from this tuner here fits perfectly with lots of extra space into the new little slot that we've made in the edge of this tuner here. So pretty much this is just about ready to go. The only thing that's left to do are to trim the sides here to make it so it will sit flush. It's really not something that's required. I just think it will be a nice little touch to make it fit in a little bit better. And as we were discovering, this material that this bracket's made of is really quite soft. So I think it'll be really easy to basically just thin the sides there. I can just use my file, and I can mount the plate just basically along this side here, and then just rub the file along the side until I get it to the desired width, and then I can just pick the plate up and flip it around and do the same from the other side. Alright, so I've got one filed down to basically how I want it. I ended up making it quite a bit thinner than I originally had imagined it being, because originally I wanted to make it so it was flush with the edges, but I didn't realize that the edges on the wood are quite rounded. So if it was flush with the edge of the sides here, it would still have quite a bit of an overhang where the rounded parts of the wood were. So basically I filed it in as thin as where the rounded part of the wood stops, and I still think it looks pretty good. You can't really very much tell that, you know, I've modified these tuners. You could almost imagine that these came on it from the factory, I think, once it's all finished. So I can do the same with the other one that goes in this spot here, and I'll show the process of doing that. Alright, so I've got this mounted on the piece of wood here, and I've measured these holes very carefully, so I'll be removing the exact right amount of material. So as you can see, you know, there's a fair bit of an overhang here, so with my file I'll go back and forth along there, and then I will keep going until, you know, the file's rubbing up against the piece of wood there. So basically I'll be making, you know, this edge here so it's a straight line with the piece of wood here. And I do the same with this little notch over here to make it so it's all, you know, one straight solid line. And once I'm finished with this side, I can take the screws out and flip things around 180 degrees and do the same for this other side over here. And by using the same holes, I'll be ensuring that I'm doing things very repeatably, so that they're all going to be, you know, removing the same amount of material, so the finished product for all of them will be essentially the same. Alright, so I'm probably going to speed this part of the video up, but basically I'm just going to take my file up and down along here and just remove all that material right there. And the file makes quite a loud squealing noise, so I'm going to be wearing my hearing protection for this part here. Alright, so that's pretty much all removed there. I'm just going to go on a little bit of an angle here just to take that sharp burr off. And as you can imagine, with all of that filing on there, this piece here gets quite hot from all of the friction. Alright, now I'll just do this little bump over here the same way. Go on a bit of an angle there. And now we're good to just remove these screws and flip things around and do the same to the other side. Now in the back you can see there are some quite sharp burrs here. So I'll just use my file and just rub those off so the back will be nice and smooth as well. So I realized I've never really showed how to actually put one of these back together again, so I'll show for this one. So this worm gear thing just gets pushed into these little slots, which are right there and there, and just goes in there quite easily like that. And then this piece here comes in through the big hole in the back, and as you can see, it's got 6 little flat spots on the sides there. Those 6 little flat spots match up with the 6 flat spots which are on the inside of the gear there, which then go on there like that. And then there's just this black screw which goes in the top, which holds those 2 pieces together. And then just using a Phillips screwdriver, you can attach those together, and then you've got your working machine head tuning peg. Alright, so there they are sitting on there. The only thing I have left to do is to drill the holes, which are going to hold them in place. And that's a pretty easy task to do, but you want to make sure you do a good job at it, because you really only get one shot at making sure you get the holes in exactly the right spot. So I'll just do that now, and then the project will be completed, at least for this side. I'm probably going to just leave you know, this project half done with just the one side done, just for a little bit, to make sure it's going to work the way that I want it to before I switch over the other side. So I successfully finished mounting the tuners on this side, and I put a set of strings on there, and I tried it for about a day, and I was just absolutely completely satisfied with it. Everything worked exactly as planned. These cheap tuners, you know, they work so much better, in my personal opinion, than the stock ones that come on here. And so I was completely happy with it. So the next day I went ahead and did the other side. I did it exactly the same way, and I've had these both on there with the strings for about a week now, and I'm just, you know, completely satisfied with it. It really makes this like a whole new ukulele. It just makes it, you know, so much easier if you're playing it and you hear that, you know, one of the strings is a little bit off. It's just so easy, you know, to just, you know, take one of these tuners and just turn it like, you know, a fraction of a turn. And it's so easy to get, you know, such precise little adjustments to the tuners, so you can get your ukulele exactly in tune the way that you want it. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and do the same with this ukulele here with the extra set of tuners that I bought as well. These ones are a little bit different. They might be a little bit more tricky to modify to get them to fit in there, but I'm sure I'll be able to handle it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.